In the ancient and revered Shaolin traditions, there's an adage that resonates with timeless truth and immense power. A man who conquers himself is more powerful than one who conquers 1,000 in battle. This profound statement doesn't speak of physical prowess or dominion over external armies, but of an infinitely more significant victory, mastery over one's own inner world. If your deepest aspiration is to become sharper in your perception, keener in your thinking, clearer in your mind, and yes, more dangerous, and here the word dangerous must be understood not in the sense of violence or aggression, but in the unshakable calm, the invulnerability of your presence, and the ability to discern truth beyond appearances, then you must abandon the incessant outward search. You must stop the race for more information, more possessions, more validation. Instead, you must begin to observe, with meticulous, sustained and loving attention, your own inner self. That's where the true revolution begins. The true mental hack, the key to unlocking a potential that already intrinsically resides within you, isn't a superficial trick or a quick fix that can be acquired at a weekend seminar or by reading a single book. It is, in essence, a profound transformation. It's a fundamental shift in how you interact with your own consciousness, with your thoughts, with your emotions, and with the vast universe around you. This path will lead you to 4 essential realizations, 4 fundamental steps that won't grant you new external power, but will unleash the immense strength, lucidity, and latent intelligence that already exist within you, waiting to be awakened, cultivated, and put at the service of your highest expression. Prepare for the journey back to your center. The modern world, with its dizzying speed, constant connectivity, and insatiable demand for our fragmented attention, is a deafening, constant symphony of noise. And this noise isn't limited to just the audible sounds that fill our ears: incessant traffic, untimely smartphone notifications, strangers' conversations in public spaces, or background music we no longer truly hear. It goes much deeper. It's an incessant bombardment of mental noise. It's the overwhelming avalanche of digital information reaching us every second. The endless distractions furiously competing for our most precious attention, the uninterrupted stream of random, often repetitive and self-critical thoughts, and the constant external stimulations that combined prevent the human mind from finding the necessary repose to adequately process, deeply integrate, and fundamentally create with true clarity and purpose. This mental cacophony is the equivalent of having 1,000 windows open on your computer simultaneously, each playing something different, preventing any task from running efficiently. In this environment of sensory, informational, and mental saturation, we've fallen into a dangerous and deeply ingrained trap. We confuse constant activity, incessant busyness, with true intelligence, and perpetual motion with genuine progress. We feel compelled to always be connected, informed, productive, or doing something, mistakenly believing that a constantly busy mind is synonymous with a brilliant and efficient mind. This belief leads us into a spiral of exhaustion and dispersion, but the truth, a truth that millennia-old wisdom traditions have known and practiced for eons, is that real growth, the true expansion of human potential, and authentic inner strength don't arise from chaos or perpetual agitation. On the contrary, they emerge from profound stillness, from a state of unwavering calm at the eye of the storm. There's a fundamental and deeply logical reason why Shaolin monks, known worldwide for their incredible physical discipline, emotional control, and mental acuity, begin their rigorous training not with flying kicks or devastating blows, nor with displays of brute strength. Their initial instruction, the foundation upon which they build everything else, is the practice of silence. The first and most crucial lesson they are taught is not how to effectively fight the external world, an opponent or a visible threat, but how to stop the incessant battle, the internal conflict, the self-generated noise within oneself. Before any latent potential can flourish to its fullest expression, before your mind can become truly sharp and focused, before your body can become a finely tuned and efficient instrument, your breathing must slow down and find a serene rhythm, your heartbeat must calm to a steady, quiet pulse, and the relentless whirlwind of your thoughts must settle like dust after a gust of wind. Without this unshakable foundation of inner calm, any external effort, any attempt at mastery or learning will be like building a majestic house on quicksand, doomed to collapse with the slightest tremor. In silence, the mind, freed from the shackles of constant stimulation, begins to realign with its inherent natural rhythm. This rhythm is not frantic or superficial, nor is it the accelerated pace imposed by society. It is a deep, vast, and expansive rhythm with the immensity of time, It's like the still water running in the depths of a mountain lake. On the surface, it may appear motionless or barely visible, but in its stillness lies immense and unshakable silent strength, a powerful current capable of moving mountains. Most people caught in the paradigm of information overload feed their minds every second of the day with digital content, environmental noise, fragmented information, and an incessant cascade of stimuli. They fervently believe that more input automatically means more knowledge, more awareness, greater intellectual capacity, as if the mind were a mere vessel that becomes more useful the more it is filled. But this is a dangerous and deeply limiting illusion. A flooded mind, constantly saturated with stimuli, is not a sharp or insightful mind, it's a dull, opaque mind. It's distracted, overloaded to the point of paralysis, and paradoxically, too full to genuinely learn something new, to deeply integrate what it already knows, or to generate original ideas. It's like a computer hard drive on the verge of crashing due to excess information and running programs, becoming slow, inefficient, and prone to constant errors. The paradox, the profound truth that defies our modern world-conditioned logic, is this: the less noise you allow into your mental space, the more rigorously you filter what you consume, the more intelligence, more mental acuity, and more clarity you will gain. This is due to a fundamental reason. Your brain stops wasting an immense amount of precious energy, processing unnecessary garbage, filtering constant distractions, or chaotically jumping from one thought to another. Instead, that energy is redirected and concentrated, focusing all its power towards one thing: deep understanding, pristine clarity, and optimal mental function. It is energy efficiency at its finest. To illustrate this truth more vividly, imagine your mind not as a hard drive but as a lake. If the surface of that lake is constantly agitated by the wind, by incessant rain, or by turbulent currents, it will always be rippling, murky, and disturbed. In such a state, no clear reflection will be visible on its surface. You won't be able to see what lies beneath the surface, in the depths of your subconscious, nor the landscape surrounding it, in your perception of the world. But if the water of that lake settles completely, if it becomes perfectly still, pristine, and without the slightest ripple, then it transforms into an impeccable mirror, a reflective surface of astonishing clarity. That mirror not only shows you the external world sharply, it reveals everything about yourself. It shows you your own recurring thought patterns, your hidden weaknesses that you've been avoiding, your most primal and reactive impulses, and crucially, your unexplored strengths and untapped potential, waiting to be discovered. Silence is, therefore, the master key to accessing that mirror, to unveiling the truth of your inner world without filters or distortions. Without it, without that reflective stillness, you live blindly, reacting automatically to every external or internal stimulus, without a true understanding of yourself, without the ability to consciously choose your responses, simply following the dictates of your conditioning and the environment. The inherent problem with silence, and the reason so many avoid it, is that it's not easy to achieve, much less maintain. In fact, for the vast majority of people, silence is deeply uncomfortable, even terrifying. It brutally confronts us with the incessant chatter of our own minds, with repressed anxieties we've been pushing to the background, with the deepest fears we've been avoiding confronting, and with the raw reality of our unconscious habits. It's in silence that uncomfortable truths often resurface. When faced with this existential discomfort, most people's automatic response is to flee, desperately seeking refuge in noise. We compulsively turn to social media, turn up the music or background television, or get lost in aimless scrolling on our phones, anything to avoid confronting internal silence and what it might reveal. We prefer constant distraction, the anesthesia of noise, to confronting ourselves and the truth of our being. But the true transformation or mental hack lies precisely in the opposite, in the ability to remain, to sit, to simply breathe, and to dare to do nothing more than observe. If you can maintain that stillness, then you will begin to witness something extraordinary. Those inner voices, those intrusive thoughts, those compulsive impulses, and those turbulent emotions that previously dragged you down will gradually begin to lose their power over you. They will come, yes, like clouds in the sky, or like waves in the ocean, but they will also go, dissipating without clinging. And you, the observer, will remain unaltered, firmly anchored in your inner stillness. That is the true liberation from mental tyranny. You begin to become the observer of the mind, not its slave or servant, When you stop impulsively reacting to every internal noise, every fleeting thought that crosses your mind strengthens, becomes more focused, more resilient to adversity, and yes, more dangerous in the sense that it can no longer be manipulated, dragged, or unbalanced by internal or external chaos. You have reclaimed the helm of your own ship. Think of it this way: in the heat of battle or in the art of strategy, the most dangerous and effective fighter is not the one who moves first impulsively, blinded by emotion, or the one who makes the most noise to intimidate. It's the one who waits, who observes every opponent's move with glacial calm, who sees the complete picture with unparalleled clarity, who measures the precise moment with infinite patience and strikes with lethal, seemingly effortless precision. The same applies to the mind. A mind trained in stillness, a silent mind, sees beyond the surface, discerns hidden truths, and achieves more with less effort, less friction, and less wasted energy. This is the kind of mind you must build, a sanctuary of unshakable calm amidst the world's whirlwind, a refuge of lucidity in the darkness. A mind trained in silence is not an empty, inactive, or passive mind. On the contrary, it is a mind charged with potential, a fully recharged battery, ready for conscious action. Once you have had the experience of touching that inner stillness, even for brief moments at first, you will begin to notice something powerfully transformative and undeniable in your daily life. Decisions, which previously seemed overwhelming, full of doubt, and sources of anxiety, become surprisingly easier and clearer, as if the right path illuminated before your eyes. Focus, which previously required Herculean effort on your part and dissipated with the slightest external distraction, becomes second nature, almost effortless. Your learning capacity drastically accelerates as your mind is open, receptive, and clear, not overloaded or saturated. And your emotions, those powerful forces that previously seemed to govern your reactions and your mood, leaving a trail of regret, no longer have that absolute control over you. Suddenly, you are no longer fighting against life, constantly pushing against the current, exhausted by resistance. Instead, you find yourself flowing with it, navigating its challenges with a grace, ease, and synchronicity that were previously unimaginable, like a sailboat moving with the wind instead of against it. A sharp mind, in the highest sense of the term, is not one that knows everything, that has accumulated the most data, or that has the answer to every question. It is one that sees with absolute clarity through illusion and noise, and a silent mind is by definition a clear mind, a crystal through which reality is perceived without distortions. This is a truth that all great masters throughout history, in various disciplines and cultures, have understood, trained, and applied with mastery. The warrior who waits for the perfect moment before acting, the monk who finds enlightenment in deep meditation, the philosopher who discerns the deepest truths of existence, all of them, without exception, trained their minds to sit in stillness before undertaking any significant action. This practice is not a sign of weakness, indecision, or inactivity. It is the purest manifestation of absolute self-control, a control that translates into unparalleled efficiency, insight, and effectiveness in any area of life. When you learn to be alone with yourself in silence, you not only tolerate your own company, but you embrace it, and in that self-imposed solitude, you unlock layers of perception that the noisy, stimulus-saturated world never offers you. It's as if your internal senses sharpen exponentially, allowing you to perceive nuances and truths that were previously invisible to you, and while others around you are exhausted by mental chaos, aimlessly dragged by the current of distraction, you remain calm, precise in your actions, and fully aware of everything around you. Your energy doesn't dissipate in the whirlwind, it condenses and amplifies. So if you truly want to become sharper, truly more intelligent, and more potent in your life, you must make a radical change, a 180-degree turn in your approach. Stop feeding your mind with constant distractions, with the incessant white noise of modernity. Instead, start listening to what your mind has to tell you, but without the external noise that drowns it out, and without the internal chatter that distorts it. You will be literally surprised at how incredibly intelligent, intuitive, and capable you already are, when nothing is pulling your mind in 20 different directions. Your natural intelligence is not lost, you are not lacking it at all. It is simply hidden, veiled under dense layers of noise, distraction, and unnecessary thoughts. Silence not only reveals it in its pure essence, but allows it to flourish in all its splendor, and operate at its maximum capacity. This is the first and most fundamental stepping stone on the path, the foundational shift that precedes any other significant progress. If you cannot command your mind to be still, to remain silent for just 5 minutes, how can you expect it to perform with excellence under extreme stress, under the relentless pressure of challenges, or in high-stakes situations? Mental strength is not built in the incessant noise of external activity, in constant multitasking, or in overstimulation. It is forged in the deep and sustained stillness of internal silence, in the calm that precedes action. Let the world pursue superficial speed, instant gratification, and massive information consumption. You instead pursue depth, substance, clarity. Let them get lost in endless social media scrolling. You sit in your center, in your meditation, in your observation. Let them react impulsively to every provocation, every spark of emotion. You observe calmly, discern wisely, and choose your response. They will exhaust themselves, burn out, get lost in chaos. You will rise with unshakable calm, pristine lucidity, and silent wisdom that will make you invincible against external storms. Stay with silence, embrace it, make it your most faithful companion, until silence stays with you, not as an imposition or a forced exercise, but as your natural state of being, your home. Only then walk into the world, not as one who struggles and strives, but as someone new, someone unshakably focused, someone who cannot be distracted, someone who cannot be fooled by external illusions, someone who, in their purest essence, cannot be defeated by external chaos, because their strength lies in their unshakable inner peace and the clarity of their mind. Mental mastery, that state of sharpness, clarity, and unshakable power, is not limited solely to the inner stillness we have explored. While silence is the crucible where the mind is tempered, purified, and strengthened in its essence, it is through observation that this tempered mind learns to discern truth from illusion, to perceive what the vast majority of people ignore, and to move with lethal precision on life's complex and often chaotic chessboard. Observation, in this context, is not a passive act of mere sensory perception. It is a form of intelligence in action, a state of presence so profound and absorbing that the world in its intricate complexity reveals itself to you without effort or conscious analysis. Observation, the mirror of reality. When we speak of observation in the context of Shaolin mastery and true mental acuity, we are not simply referring to looking at what is in front of our eyes or superficially seeing. The vast majority of people look but do not see. They hear sounds but do not listen to the underlying message, and they move through life without perceiving the intricate and repetitive patterns that govern it, both individually and collectively. True observation is a state of expanded consciousness, an immersion so deep and complete in the present moment that everything around you reveals its purest essence and inherent truth, without the need to force understanding or exhausting intellectual analysis. It is becoming so internally still, so devoid of mental noise, that the external world in its entirety unfolds before you like an open scroll, without filters or distortions. Imagine the dramatic difference between ordinary perception and cultivated observation. Most people walk through life half asleep, their minds constantly wandering in past worries, future fantasies, or ruminating internal dialogues. They sincerely believe they see what is happening, but they are blind to hidden patterns, to the invisible dynamics that dictate events and interactions. They hear sounds and noises, but miss the underlying message, the unspoken truth hidden in silence or tone. They look at faces, but do not see the real person residing behind the eyes, the social masks or the forced expressions. They miss crucial details, those that truly matter, and are often the most revealing because their minds are too busy judging, labeling, assuming, filling in information gaps with their own projections without taking the time to verify what is truly real. This, far from being intelligence, is an automatic behavior, an unconscious programming that keeps you limited, predictable, and ultimately vulnerable to manipulation. A brain that is constantly in judgment and categorization mode cannot be a brain that observes with purity. Observation, in its purest and most effective form, begins with a deliberate and conscious slowing down of your immediate response. Instead of reacting instantly to every stimulus, be it a spoken word, a gesture, an unexpected situation, or an internal emotion, you stop, you pause, a micro moment of stillness that may last barely a heartbeat. In that pause, you feel, you perceive, you allow the information to settle in your consciousness without rushing to categorize it. You wait a little longer than others, immersed in reactivity would. You don't feel the compulsive need to respond immediately, to fill the silence with words, to move first, or to control the narrative. You allow everything around you to show itself, to reveal its own truth, without pushing it, without trying to control it, without trying to speed up its unfolding. It is in this active patience, in this stillness of anticipation, that immense mental strength and sharp discernment are built. Each time you manage to restrain your impulse to judge prematurely, to respond impulsively, to interrupt, or to try to control a situation before fully understanding it, you are sharpening, like a master swordsman sharpens his blade, your capacity for observation. You are pruning the noise of your own reactivity, creating space for lucidity. And it is crucial to understand that observation is not passive, despite its inherent stillness. it is an active stillness, a form of attention that is vibrant and alert. The difference between the two is subtle in concept, but it is absolutely transformative for life. Passive stillness is a boring wait, a doing nothing out of inertia, a sleeping or absent mind. Active observation, on the other hand, is alive, vibrant. It is attentive with every fiber of your being. It looks not only with the eyes but with all senses and with the totality of your consciousness. It listens not only to explicit words but to the silences between them, the tone, the cadence, what is not said. It catches details and nuances that others, absorbed in their own internal dialogue or in haste, completely miss. A barely perceptible change in someone's tone of voice, a momentary tension in their jaw or shoulders, a slight hesitation in a key phrase that reveals doubt, the way someone crosses their arms, or the pattern of their breathing when they think no one is watching. These are not small or insignificant details. They are signs, revelations, micro-expressions of the underlying truth. They tell you more about the reality of a situation or about the truth of a person than words alone ever could express. They are the language of the subconscious manifesting itself. When you train your mind to observe in this deep and conscious way, the world, paradoxically, seems to slow down as if time expanded. You become acutely aware of recurring patterns, not only in others, but also in yourself. You begin to understand, for example, how certain people always avoid eye contact just before telling a lie, how some force a smile to hide deep insecurity, or how certain recurring situations, though different on the surface, always trigger fear or a specific reaction in you, even when you act with apparent confidence and composure. You begin to see behind the mask, beyond the surface, directly into the underlying truth, the hidden motives, the unexpressed vulnerabilities, and when you are able to see the mask for what it is, a construct, an illusion, to discern the illusion of self-deception or external manipulation, you stop being manipulated by it, whether by others or by your own self-illusions and limiting beliefs. The vast majority of people easily get entangled in stories and narratives created by others or even by their own ego. Someone speaks with authority and they blindly follow. Someone uses their charm and they trust unreservedly, without questioning. Someone shows intense emotion and they surrender to it, being dragged by the drama. But if you train observation with rigor and patience, you see the true motive behind the words and gestures. You understand the intention behind the action. You hear what is not said, you feel what is hidden, you perceive the energy of truth that radiates beyond words. That is what makes you truly powerful, in the sense that you are unshakable in your discernment. This form of power is not noisy, aggressive or dominant. It is a quiet, silent, sharp power, and yes, dangerous in the highest sense, for those who operate in ignorance, manipulation or unconsciousness. You don't feel the imperative need to prove anything to anyone, to argue, to discuss or to convince. You simply know what is happening, because you are observing not from the narrow lens of your ego, your prejudices or your preconceptions, but from the vast expansion and neutrality of your consciousness. There is a vast difference, a conceptual abyss between impulsively reacting to the surface of things and deeply understanding the essence of what is happening. Observation grants you that deep understanding and the perspective that allows you to operate with wisdom. I invite you to a practical and deeply revealing exercise. Try it for a full day, just one day. Consciously choose to say less than usual and instead see, observe, perceive much more. Don't just observe people in your interactions, but also your surroundings with renewed true attention. The colors you often overlook, the textures of objects, the dancing shadows, the ambient sounds you normally filter out as noise. Observe how your body feels at different times of the day, without judging the sensations, just registering them. Observe how your mood or energy level changes after certain actions, interactions or consumptions. Notice how your thoughts transform with different foods you eat, with physical activity, with movement, or with the simple act of sitting in silence. Pay meticulous attention to what drains your energy and what strengthens you. These are invisible patterns, subtle threads that nevertheless control much of your life until you bring them into the light of your consciousness through observation. The more you observe with this depth, the more invisible threads of cause and effect you begin to unravel, revealing the underlying mechanics of your existence. You begin to understand how a careless word spoken without thought can drastically alter the course of a relationship, how a deep and conscious breath taken at the opportune moment can transform an overwhelming emotion in an instant, how a moment of patience, an act of containing your impulse, can prevent an imminent disaster or an unnecessary confrontation. You stop living randomly, at the mercy of circumstances and automatic reactions, and begin to live with precision, with conscious intention in every step. Now, it is fundamental to understand that this precision is not about trying to control every detail of your life with an iron fist. It is about being so present, so conscious, so aligned with reality that you can make small adjustments, subtle movements, with an immense and multiplying impact, like the subtle and decisive touch of a chess master who determines the course of the game with a move that few saw coming. That is true intelligence in action. That is what makes you more dangerous, because you are no longer a pawn blindly moved by others or by your own unconscious impulses. You are the one who sees the entire board, who understands the hidden dynamics and possible consequences. You can step aside when necessary, retreat wisely, and advance with audacity and determination when the time is right and the opportunity reveals itself. And when you act, you do so with full awareness, with clear intention, and with a wisdom that transcends blind impulsivity. The modern world, with its frantic pace, constant overstimulation, and emphasis on superficiality, trains you to look superficially, but not to see deeply, to scroll through endless news, but not to study carefully, to hear sounds and voices, but not to truly listen to the essential message. This widespread superficiality weakens the mind, makes it scattered, and keeps you constantly distracted, oblivious to your own power and the richness of reality. But your mind is capable of much more, of levels of perception and understanding that you barely glimpse in your current state. You just have to remove what numbs it and train it with the same dedication with which a blade that has been rusted by disuse and misuse is sharpened to observe again. In Shaolin training, we are taught to walk through the forest and hear the wind not just as random noise but as a message. We observe the leaves of trees not just as part of the landscape but as subtle signs of change. We look at the ground not just to walk on it, but to understand what happened before us, the footprints of life that preceded us. This is not esoteric mysticism, it is pure mastery, it is the application of sharpened consciousness. Seeing what others ignore, perceiving what others do not perceive, leads to actions that others simply cannot take because they lack the necessary information or insight. Think of the person who notices a change in the energy of a room before anyone speaks, the one who feels the atmosphere tense or relaxed, the one who perceives the change of mood in a conversation. That person is already adjusting, already calibrating their response before others realize something has changed. That person does not need to dominate the conversation or impose themselves with noise. They already lead by their awareness, they already win by their presence, by their ability to operate one step ahead of reactivity, and this is what makes you truly intelligent and powerful. Observation is the root of all deep intelligence and all practical wisdom. You cannot understand what you do not first see clearly. You cannot change what you do not first recognize as a pattern or a truth. The more you observe with this depth, the more subtle and crucial data your mind collects, the more intricate patterns it perceives, and the more effective and wise it becomes. This is how genuine learning happens, not just by reading books, not just by listening to lectures, but by observing everything with full attention, without trying to change it, just to understand it in its essence. It's vital to remember that this practice of observation, while granting you keen discernment, is not about becoming paranoid or suspicious of others. On the contrary, it's about becoming more alive, more conscious, more awake, fully engaged with your senses and the richness of the present moment. Your perception is your greatest power, and it doesn't require you to be the loudest or the fastest to react, just the clearest and the most present. To become more intelligent and powerful, you must sharpen your observation, making it second nature, and that means training your awareness to move ahead of your words, ahead of your actions. You live one step ahead, not because you mystically predict the future, but because you see the present with a clarity and depth that escapes most. Practice this until your mere presence, the unwavering quality of your attention, begins to transform the energy around you. Because people can feel intuitively when they are truly seen, when they are given non-judgmental attention, pure and present attention, and that kind of seeing cannot be faked. It emanates from deep observation, trained over time, practiced in silence, and refined by unwavering patience. Allow your consciousness to become your greatest advantage, your attention to become your unshakable strength, and your observation to become the silent weapon that changes everything around you, without the need for force, aggression, or manipulation. Breathing, the bridge between body and mind, there is a rhythm that lives unaltered within every human being, a primordial pulse that is older than conscious thought, older than the most primary emotion, older than any personal memory. It is the rhythm of life itself, the melody of your existence. This rhythm begins before you speak your first word, before you walk your first step, before you understand any concept in this world. The first thing you did when you were born, when you entered this plane of existence, was to inhale. The last thing you will do when you leave this plane will be to exhale. Between these two moments, between the first inhalation and the last exhalation, your entire life happens. Your breath is not just something your body does automatically to survive, a mere physiological process. It is in fact the most direct and powerful bridge between your mind and your body, the vital threshold, the sacred connection point between your consciousness, your inner state, and your limitless potential. Observe this carefully. When your breath is shallow and restricted, held by tension or anxiety, your mind tends to be scattered, fragmented, and unfocused. When your breath speeds up uncontrollably, your heart races, your emotions spin out of control, and your ability to focus completely vanishes. But when your breath becomes conscious, when it calms and deepens, when you inhale with full awareness of every particle of air entering and exhale with a deliberate intention to let go and release, everything within you transforms radically. The mind slows down to a serene and lucid stillness, turbulent emotions soften, settle, and lose their pull. Inner chaos dissipates, and clarity, like the sun breaking through after a dense storm, returns to illuminate your path. That is not abstract philosophy. It is pure biology. It is the undeniable and demonstrable interconnection between your autonomic nervous system, your brain, and your breath. And crucially, it is a direct result of conscious training. The vast majority of people do not breathe in the sense of a conscious, full, and empowering action. They simply survive. They allow the body to function automatically, never questioning which vital functions are being controlled by their subconscious and which are being ignored, thus leaving vast and colossal untapped potential. But on the path of mastery, on the path of the inner warrior and the self-master, nothing is automatic. Everything must be intentional, every act a conscious choice. Breath must be trained, not just to increase oxygen in the blood or to maintain basic vital functions, but to actively mold and shape the state of your brain and nervous system. It is the control of control. In the Shaolin monk tradition and in many other Eastern spiritual traditions, breath is much more than air. It is vital energy. It is chi or prana. It is the life force that animates every cell of your being, that moves the universe. And it is the first step, the fundamental and most accessible tool for gaining control over the mind, precisely because it is the only function that directly connects both the voluntary systems, which we can consciously control, and the involuntary systems, which operate without our conscious intervention of the body. You cannot force your heart to slow down with direct thought alone. You cannot stop your digestion with pure willpower. But you can control your breathing, and by doing so, you can powerfully influence everything else: your heart rate, your emotional state, your mental clarity. This is why, when a student first arrives at the temple, they are not asked to meditate for hours in complex postures, nor to perform extraordinary physical feats from day one. They are asked, again and again, simply to breathe slowly and deeply, to do it again and again and again. Because without mastery over breath, there is no mastery over thought. And without mastery over thought, there is no path to real wisdom, only reaction, only chaos, only persistent illusion. A sharp mind, a truly brilliant and effective mind, does not come from thinking more or harder, or from saturating oneself with information to the point of collapse. It comes from thinking with greater clarity, with a pristine lucidity that cuts through the noise. And clarity is a direct result of stillness, not of mental tension or exhausting effort. Conscious breathing is the supreme catalyst that creates that stillness. You do not desperately pursue it as something external. You create the internal conditions, the conducive environment, for it to arrive naturally and to flourish within you. Each inhalation must be full, nourishing, but never forced or tense. Each exhalation must be long, complete, enough to empty what you are holding inside, both physically and mentally. It is a constant act of letting go. Now, think of how many crucial moments in your life were lost, how many opportunities vanished before your eyes, how many wrong decisions were made, how many regrettable words were spoken, all due to untrained breathing, to uncontrolled breath. Anger rose too quickly, panic overwhelmed you and completely nullified your logic, fear interrupted your words and prevented you from speaking your truth, expressing your essence. Your breath was uncontrolled, and therefore your actions were automatic, reactive, impulsive, without true discernment. Your breath was shallow, and therefore your thinking was narrow, limited, unable to see the whole picture or find creative solutions. Every time you lose control of your breath, you lose a fragment of your power, of your internal sovereignty. But once you begin to train it, consciously, consistently, and dedicatedly, everything in your life begins to transform radically. Your breath becomes your unshakable anchor amidst the most intense stress, your protective shield in the hottest conflict, your silent weapon in the stillness of meditation and introspection. When others panic, agitated or scattered, you remain calm, unshakable. When others rush aimlessly, swept away by inertia, you remain centered and rooted in your being. This is not magic in the sense of a trick, but the direct and predictable result of conscious breathwork. And it must be practiced daily, not just when you are in the midst of a crisis or facing a high-pressure situation, but especially when you are not. Because what you train and strengthen in peace and calm will serve you faithfully under the most intense pressure and in moments of greatest challenge. Imagine the ability to walk into a crowded room, to feel the dense or chaotic energy prevailing, and to be able to slow your breathing in an instant. Your heart rate adjusts in seconds, your posture settles, becomes more rooted, projecting an unshakable calm. Your awareness expands to encompass the entire space, and your presence becomes solid, weighty, not aggressively or imposingly, but profoundly rooted and magnetic. You don't need to speak a single word, and people feel it. They perceive your presence, your inner calm, your control. This is the undeniable effect of trained breathing, and it is a rare and precious quality in this fast-paced, superficial world, yet immensely powerful, beyond any material measure. Controlling your breath doesn't mean holding it or forcing it unnaturally, which would be counterproductive. It means harmonizing it, finding its natural rhythm, and then cultivating it. It means learning to breathe with your whole body, not just your lungs, and allowing your autonomic nervous system to follow the serene rhythm you yourself establish. Your brain is listening to your breath more attentively, and in a deeper way than it listens to your verbal thoughts or self-affirmations. You may think you are calm and relaxed, but if your breathing is tense, shallow, and agitated, your brain won't believe you. It will send alarm signals to the rest of your body, generating anxiety. You may think you are confident, but if your breathing is weak and inconsistent, your energy leaks and your presence weakens. Breath doesn't lie, it is an honest barometer of your internal state. And so the first thing you should ask yourself when you feel confused, reactive, anxious, or weakened is not what am I thinking or what's happening to me, but how am I breathing? Fix the breath, make it conscious and deep, and the mind will follow it to stillness. Fix the breath, and turbulent emotions will settle. Fix the breath, and pristine clarity will return to your consciousness. This is not something you do once and forget, nor is it a superficial trick for a moment of need. This is a lifestyle. It is the very foundation of inner power, an unshakable base that sustains you in any circumstance and allows you to operate from your center. It doesn't require absolute silence, solitude, or a special place to practice. You can train it anywhere, in the middle of deafening traffic, in the bustle of a crowd, in the midst of an interpersonal conflict. A single conscious breath, taken with full intention, can change everything in an instant. A conscious breath can stop an imminent mistake before it happens, can open a new path where there was none before, can instantly return you to your center, to your true self amidst chaos. If you do this consistently, with discipline and love, your entire identity will transform profoundly. You stop being someone who simply reacts to external and internal stimuli like an automaton. You become someone who consciously chooses their response in every moment. You stop being aimlessly dragged by the tide of your emotions. You begin to ride them, to surf them like an expert on a wave, using their energy to propel you. You stop fearing the unknown, because your breath becomes your constant companion, your inner compass, your unshakable anchor. And with it you can face anything, because your breath, your life, your essence is always with you, an inexhaustible source of power and calm. Let go of the erroneous and limiting idea that intelligence is just about accumulating knowledge or being fast at processing information. True intelligence, deep wisdom, lives in the body, in the breath, in the sacred space created between your thoughts. Breath is what creates that space, that fertile void. Without space, there is no insight, only mental noise. Without conscious breath, there is no power, only pressure, exhaustion, and dispersion. Without awareness of your breath, there is no true awareness of life itself, only a superficial existence. So, if your deepest desire is to become sharper in your mind, more focused on your purposes, more present in every moment, and ultimately more powerful in your being, start with your breath. Don't rush it, don't fake it. Simply return to it again and again with patience and perseverance until it becomes your default state, your second nature. Not only in the silence of meditation, but in every moment of your day, in every action, in every interaction. Train your breath until it becomes your most faithful ally, your wisest guide, your infallible inner compass, and when others are scattered, you will remain firm, unshakable in your center. When others are lost in the whirlwind of their thoughts, you will be anchored in your unshakable presence. And the more you master your breath, the less you will need to prove anything to anyone, the less you will need to justify your existence or your actions, because your mere presence will speak louder, with greater eloquence, and with more authority than any word you could utter. Breathe with purpose, until purpose breathes through you, and then you will become purpose itself. Detachment, liberation from mental tyranny. There is a fundamental truth that we often ignore to our own detriment. Not every thought that enters your mind is true, and crucially, not every voice or internal dialogue in your head truly belongs to you. Some thoughts are mere echoes of the past, old patterns senselessly repeating, like a broken record. Others are fears you have unconsciously absorbed from others, collective anxieties floating in the air, or insecurities that have been instilled in you. Some are simply thought patterns created by constant repetition, mental habits that have taken root, not by intrinsic truth or innate wisdom. The problem, the root of much of our suffering and limitation, begins precisely when we believe in all of them indiscriminately, when we follow every thought as if it were an unbreakable command and not a mere suggestion, one option among many. It is thus by identifying our being with every thought that we surrender our power, that we become slaves to our own mind. Weak thoughts, those that limit you, paralyze you, and hold you back from your maximum potential, are surprisingly easy to recognize once you begin to practice detachment and stop identifying with them. They sound like excuses, like justifications for inaction or for mediocrity. They sound like the voice of doubt, procrastination, and hesitation. They sound like the internal dialogue that always finds a reason not to do, not to speak, not to try, not to risk, not to grow. That voice, that recurring thought pattern, is not your enemy in the sense that it has no conscious malicious intent. But neither is it your wisest guide, nor the expression of your true self. It is, in essence, a residue, a remnant of past conditioning, ingrained fears and social programming, speaking disguised as logic, common sense, or prudence. Detachment does not mean you stop thinking, that you become apathetic, or that you try to forcefully suppress your thoughts, which is impossible and counterproductive. It means, crucially, that you stop becoming what you think. There is a profound and transformative difference between observing a thought and being consumed by it. You still hear thoughts, yes, because the mind is an idea-generating machine, but you no longer cling to them as if they were an intrinsic and immutable part of your identity. Instead, you observe them with a quiet distance, with compassionate neutrality, in the same way you would observe clouds moving slowly across the sky. You don't chase them, you don't try to catch or manipulate them, you don't try to control their form or direction. You simply notice them, recognize their momentary existence, and allow them to pass, without resistance, without attachment, without judgment. This is where true intelligence, true mental freedom begins. You begin to see not only what you are thinking, the superficial content, but the quality of the thought itself, its vibrational origin, its underlying intention. You begin to ask yourself honestly, is this thought truly serving me or holding me back? Is it building me up, expanding my potential, or is it weakening and contracting me? Is this thought genuinely mine, an expression of my inner wisdom, or is it something I was told thousands of times in my childhood, at school, in society, until I believed it as an absolute truth? You stop being a passive and obedient follower of every thought that crosses your mind and begin to become a conscious leader of your own consciousness, a discerner of truth. A weak and limiting thought might say, "I can't do this." But your consciousness, from the observer's seat, calmly and wisely replies, "Perhaps that is just fear speaking, not the truth of my ability." A weak thought might insidiously whisper, "I am not ready," and your inner presence, rooted in detachment, responds with quiet certainty, "Perhaps I never will be in the way I imagine, so either way I begin, and preparation will reveal itself along the way." That is not denial of reality or self-deception. It is an act of detachment from the tyranny of limiting thought and an affirmation of your power of choice. Detachment grants you the ability to move, to act, to advance in your life without waiting for perfect conditions, perfect feelings, or absolute certainty. It frees you from analysis paralysis. This mental mastery is not achieved in a single day, nor with a single meditation session or an inspiring reading. You train it in the same way you train your body in a physical discipline or your breath in a conscious practice. with constancy, patience, and unwavering dedication. You sit in silence, often in the same place where you practice conscious breathing. You observe your mind without judging it, without trying to stop the flow of thoughts, just watching them pass. You allow thoughts to arise without grasping them, without getting entangled in their seductive narratives. You allow discomfort, if it appears to remain, without feeling the imperative need to fix it or flee from it. You let the storm of thoughts pass, dissipate on its own, without running towards it, without identifying with the eye of the hurricane. The reason this training, mental detachment, makes you more dangerous and formidable is because the vast majority of people are governed by their thoughts. They are slaves to internal noise and act without questioning the validity or origin of what they think. They blindly believe everything their mind tells them, and that makes them predictable, easy to control, and easy to manipulate or trigger with emotions, because their reactions are automatic. But once you stop obeying every impulsive thought, every limiting voice, you become calm, focused, unshakable, and to the external observer, inscrutable, because you are no longer reacting to mental or emotional noise. You have regained your sovereignty. In the same way that a warrior rigorously trains not to be deterred by an imminent physical threat, you train your mind not to be deterred by the threat of a limiting thought or a destabilizing emotion. A strong thought, aligned with your truth and purpose, arises, and you examine it with discernment, choosing to empower it. A weak and limiting thought arises, and you simply release it, let it go. There is no internal struggle, no war against yourself, only quiet observation and conscious choice. That is true freedom, the culmination of mental mastery, and freedom of mind is the greatest strength you can cultivate, beyond any physical or intellectual strength. Weak thoughts love comfort, feed on drama, love delay and procrastination. They will always choose the easy path, the path of least resistance, because they are born of fear, and fear does not seek effort, it seeks security, inertia and familiarity, not growth or expansion. You cannot prevent fear from visiting you in the form of thought, but you can prevent, with detachment, it from becoming your master, the voice that dictates your actions and your destiny. Begin to pay meticulous attention to your internal language, to your constant mental monologue. Observe the phrases that repeat themselves over and over again, especially those that limit you, criticize you, or hold you back from your potential. They are ingrained patterns, not intrinsic truths. They are mental habits, not innate wisdom. When you begin to challenge them, to question their origin and validity, something profound changes. A space opens up, a fertile void between the thought that arises and your automatic reaction to it. And in that space, however tiny it may seem at first, is where your power resides, your ability to choose. That space is small and fleeting at first, almost imperceptible, but it grows exponentially with your awareness and with each intentional breath. Every time you choose to wait before impulsively responding to a situation, every time you choose to breathe deeply before blindly believing a limiting thought, you expand that space of freedom. You expand it until you no longer live in impulsive reaction, but in conscious response, not in blind panic, but in rooted presence and calm. Weak thoughts, with their disguise of logic, can often sound convincing, yet still be false and misleading, because they often wear the mask of reason to hide the underlying fear and insecurity. You must learn to feel what is behind the thought, its true vibrational root. Does it come from strength, from confidence, from expansion, or does it come from fear, from contraction, from limitation? Is it expanding you or shrinking you? That is how you test the thought, without needing to argue with it, just by feeling its truth. Once you begin to do this consistently, you realize something crucial and liberating. Your mind can be full of thoughts, and yet you can remain in a state of absolute clarity and calm. Your head can be noisy, with an incessant chatter of ideas, and yet your actions can be incredibly precise and sharp, because you are no longer inside the thought, identified with it, and dragged by its current. You are observing from outside, from the seat of your consciousness, from inner stillness, and choosing which thought to follow, which idea to empower. That is true intelligence, wisdom in action. That is what separates insignificant noise from practical and profound wisdom. Allow weak thoughts to arise and call to you. Let them yell, complain, try to persuade you if necessary, but you do not move, you do not act, unless the signal is true, clear, and aligned with your inner wisdom and your highest purpose. That is not stubbornness or resistance, it is mastery. You walk your path, not because your mind tells you run or act impulsively, but because your consciousness from stillness tells you now is the right time, this is the aligned action. This constant and deliberate training creates a deep and lasting presence. You are no longer controlled by what you feel in a fleeting moment, aimlessly dragged by the emotion of the instant or by others' opinions. You are guided, anchored by what you know from silence, from your deep breathing, from clear observation and detachment. And when you move, you do so with the full strength of someone who has chosen every step of their path, not stumbled into it by accident, by inertia, or by impulsivity. Do not fear your mind, understand it, train it, command it. It is an immensely powerful tool, the most advanced supercomputer in the universe, but only when you, the observer, sit firmly in the seat of consciousness, not in the seat of emotion or in the seat of fear. You are not the thought, you are the one who sees it. You are not the noise, you are the silence that contains everything in perfect calm. So detach. Not with emotional coldness or apathy, but with pristine clarity, not with forced resistance or struggle, but with recognition of its transient nature. Not to escape reality or yourself, but to see it with absolute sharpness and make conscious decisions. And once you see clearly, with this new vision, you will never again be deceived by weakness. Walk your path with this unshakable presence, with this silent wisdom. Not all steps will be easy, but every step will be yours, chosen, conscious, and powerfully intentional. Immersion in silence and the art of observation have revealed that the path to a sharper, more potent, and more dangerous mind in the sense of invulnerability and discernment fundamentally lies in inner mastery. But this journey does not culminate in mere understanding of the mind's mechanisms or the acquisition of personal calm. Its true purpose extends to the application of these principles in interacting with the world and with other beings, transforming our existence into a conscious manifestation of power, wisdom, and purpose. If the first part unveiled the imperative need for stillness as a foundation, and the second the invaluable insight that observation grants, this third and final part explores the application of that cultivated mastery in the grand theater of life, where every act and every interaction becomes an expression of our highest self. When the mind deeply quiets, freed from constant chatter and dispersion, and observation sharpens to perceive the most subtle nuances of reality, a level of intelligence is activated that transcends linear logic, rational analysis, and mechanical causality. You begin to perceive synchronicity, not as mere random coincidences, but as events that, though seemingly unrelated by direct cause and effect, occur with profound meaning and surprising relevance to your path, your evolution, or your intentions. Synchronicity is the way the universe, in its infinite intelligence, responds to your state of internal coherence. It is the melody of the cosmos aligning perfectly with yours, a silent yet eloquent conversation. A noisy and scattered mind, overloaded with information and judgments, is incapable of perceiving these delicate signals, interpreting them as mere accidents of chance, thus losing the opportunity for vital guidance. But a clear mind forged in the crucible of silence and sharpened by the insight of observation instantly recognizes them as clues, as subtle guides that direct you almost magically towards your highest purpose and the unfolding of your potential. Imagine your consciousness as a ship sailing a vast and complex ocean. If your mind is full of noise, your thoughts are like turbulent waves on the surface, and your observation is superficial, then your ship is adrift, without a compass, at the mercy of treacherous currents and relentless storms. You are a pawn in the vast sea of life, with no control over your direction. But when your mind quiets, when the waters of your inner lake calm, and your observation sharpens to see beyond the obvious, it's as if an infallible inner compass activates within you. You begin to see the invisible ocean currents, to feel the subtle winds gently pushing you in the right direction, to recognize lighthouses that were previously hidden. The coincidences you once ignored become direct messages from the universe. The wrong person who unexpectedly appears on your path can reveal themselves as the perfect catalyst for a necessary lesson or a growth opportunity. The unexpected obstacle that previously frustrated you reveals itself as an opportunity to develop a new skill, an internal quality you didn't know you possessed. This is the intelligence of flow, the ability to move with the current of life, to ride its waves instead of exhaustingly fighting them, to dance with the universe instead of resisting its rhythm. The vast majority of people live in a state of constant resistance to what is. They fight against circumstances, against people, against their own emotions. This resistance is not only exhausting but deeply counterproductive, creating more of what they try to avoid. The noisy, reactive mind desperately clings to control, trying to force results through pure will, an ineffective long-term strategy. But the Shaolin master, the one who has conquered their inner world, knows that true power does not reside in forcing or rigidity, but in fluidity and adaptability. Deep stillness allows you to see the current of life as it is, without distortions. Sharpened observation shows you the precise moment and the most efficient way to move with it. And detachment, that liberation from the need to control the final outcome, frees you from anxiety and allows you to fully trust in the inherent intelligence of the universe. An intelligence infinitely wiser than your own. This does not mean passivity or inaction, nor complacency in the face of difficulties. It means inspired action. When your mind is clear, cleared of noise, and your observation is sharp and perceptive, you begin to receive internal impulses to act. A sudden thought to call someone you haven't seen in years, a brilliant and spontaneous idea for a project that seems to come out of nowhere. A visceral feeling that it's time to move in a specific direction, to make an important decision. These are not blind emotional impulses or automatic reactions. They are clear signals of synchronicity, direct invitations from the universal flow that show you the path of least resistance and greatest impact. And when you act on them, with confidence and without hesitation, the universe seems to conspire in your favor in amazing ways, opening doors that were previously closed, revealing unexpected resources, and connecting you with the right people at the precise moment. It's as if the universe was saying, yes, this is what I was waiting for. This is the energy I can amplify. Mastery in interaction, beyond words. The Shaolin mind, meticulously trained in silence, sharp observation and detachment, becomes a formidable force not only for personal life, but also in the intricate art of human interaction. Most everyday interactions are dominated by mental noise, colliding egos, unrecognized prejudices, and a profound lack of true listening. People speak to impose their point of view, to convince others, to defend their position, to fill uncomfortable silences, or to seek validation. But the master operates from a fundamentally different place, a space of calm and discernment that transforms the very nature of communication. When your mind is calm, you can not only hear the words spoken with your ears, but you perceive with astonishing clarity what is unspoken, the underlying message that is often more important. Your expanded capacity for observation catches subtle body language, fleeting micro-expressions on the face, imperceptible changes in tones of voice, hesitations or significant pauses. You hear the underlying emotions that drive the words, the unexpressed insecurities, the hidden desires, and the true intentions. This grants you an immense and silent advantage in any human interaction, one that is not based on manipulation, but on deep understanding. Effortless and profound communication. You don't need to strive to understand what's really happening. Understanding flows to you naturally. You are able to respond with precision, to address the other person's true concern or need, not just their superficial words or complaints. This creates a deep connection as people feel truly seen, heard, and understood at a level they rarely experience. You are able to go straight to the heart of the matter, saving time and energy on misunderstandings. Silent and magnetic influence. Your presence becomes potent, magnetic. In a heated discussion, where others are caught in reactivity, your unwavering calm can be contagious, anchoring others in a more centered and rational state. You don't need to shout to be heard. Your clarity of thought, your serenity, and your discernment are your silent authority. People unconsciously gravitate toward calm amidst chaos, toward clarity in confusion. You become a point of stability, discernment of truth and detection of manipulation. In a world saturated with deception, half-truths, hidden agendas, and subtle manipulations, your trained observation allows you to see through the masks that people and situations present. You recognize authenticity from inauthenticity, truth from falsehood, genuine intention from disguise. This doesn't make you cynical or paranoid, but wise and cautious. You can detect hidden intentions, undeclared agendas, and subtle patterns of deception. This protects you from being manipulated, deceived, or drawn into situations that don't serve you, and allows you to make informed decisions aligned with your truth, both in personal and professional relationships. You are not fooled by superficial charm, empty promises, or convincing narratives. You see the essence of what lies behind. Conflict resolution with clarity. Conflicts, whether interpersonal or internal, often arise from misunderstanding, lack of listening, emotional reactivity, and ego rigidity. A Shaolin mind can observe the dynamics of conflict with detached neutrality without emotionally engaging in the drama. This distance allows you to see each party's blind spots, unmet needs, and communication patterns that perpetuate the problem. You can offer a clear perspective that transcends ego and emotion, leading to harmonious and lasting solutions. You become an effective peacemaker, not by being weak or complacent, but by being unshakably clear, detached, and able to see the truth of the situation. This mastery in human interaction is not about winning arguments, dominating others, or imposing your will. It is about operating from a place of truth, clarity, and wisdom, allowing your presence, your state of being, to be your most potent message and your greatest tool of influence. It is the diplomacy of silence, the persuasion of presence, the mastery of the body, a temple of consciousness. The mind and body are not separate entities operating independently. They are two sides of the same coin, intrinsically interconnected and mutually influencing each other every instant. Shaolin mental mastery, that sharpness and clarity we have discussed, has always been reflected in and deepened by the mastery of the body. A tense, sick, exhausted, or neglected body is a deficient receptacle for a sharp mind, like a race car with a tuned engine, but a weak chassis. On the contrary, a strong, flexible, vital, and consciously inhabited body exponentially amplifies the power and lucidity of the mind. Mindfulness of the body, or bodily mindfulness, is an essential extension of observation. You not only observe the external world and the flow of your thoughts, but you also direct meticulous attention to the sensations of your own body. The subtle tension in your shoulders, the tight knot in your stomach, the lightness or heaviness in your heart, the tingling in your limbs. These are not mere physical sensations, they are signals, direct messages from your bodily wisdom, indicators of your emotional and energetic state. A noisy and distracted mind ignores these signals, leading to the accumulation of stress, chronic illness, or inexplicable exhaustion. A Shaolin mind, on the other hand, listens attentively to these signals, deciphers them, and acts accordingly, anticipating imbalances before they become serious problems. Posture is not just a matter of aesthetics or ergonomics. It is a dynamic and constant reflection of your internal state, both emotional and mental. A hunched posture with slumped shoulders and a sunken chest can indicate a tense mind, a depressed spirit, or a feeling of burden. An upright posture with a straight but relaxed spine, shoulders back and chest open, rooted in the earth, radiates confidence, calm, and openness. By consciously correcting your posture, you not only improve your physical alignment and prevent pain, you also directly influence your mental and emotional state, sending signals of strength and calm to your brain. It is a profound bidirectional feedback. The mind affects the body, and the body affects the mind. Deep breathing, rooted in the abdomen, the lower dantian, supports this posture, anchoring you to the present and to your inner source of power. Conscious movement, through disciplines like Qigong or Tai Chi, is a form of moving meditation that inextricably integrates mind, body, and spirit. It is not about physical exercise in the modern sense of burning calories or gaining muscle, but about cultivating the flow of vital energy, Qi or prana, throughout the body, removing blockages, strengthening internal organs, and amplifying overall vitality. Every movement is performed with full awareness, with breath as a guide and mental focus on the flow of energy. This not only improves physical health, flexibility, and balance, but deepens mental stillness, sharpens observation, and harmonizes emotions. The body becomes a living temple of consciousness, a vehicle for the flow of universal energy. Qigong and Tai Chi practices cultivate the deep connection between external movement and internal energy flow, teaching you to move with efficiency, grace, and power from your center. Additionally, contact with nature, such as walking barefoot, earthing, or practicing outdoors, is considered crucial for recharging the body and mind, absorbing the vital energy of the earth. A Shaolin master, in their holistic training, never separates physical training from mental or spiritual training. One nourishes and amplifies the other interdependently. A strong, flexible, and energized body is the ideal vessel for a clear and potent mind. A clear and focused mind in turn guides the body with precision and wisdom, optimizing its functioning. This is the essence of the mind-body-spirit unity that many philosophies and disciplines seek, but few manage to integrate fully. It is the key to unwavering vitality and a magnetic presence. The discipline of emptiness, letting go to gain In a world obsessed with accumulation of material goods, knowledge, experiences, titles, social connections, the Shaolin path introduces a radical and deeply liberating concept, the discipline of emptiness. It's not about giving everything up ascetically or becoming nihilistic, but about a deliberate and conscious practice of letting go of what no longer serves you, what doesn't nourish you, or what weighs you down, to create vital space for what is essential, for what is truly significant, for new creation. It's an act of conscious pruning, information emptiness, digital and mental detox. Instead of constantly consuming more information indiscriminately, news, social media, entertainment, you practice an active information detoxification. You deliberately choose not to read all the news that comes your way, not to watch all the viral videos, not to listen to all the podcasts. You create intentional voids in your information consumption and in your schedule to allow your mind to rest deeply, process what it has already absorbed, integrate wisdom, and most importantly, generate original ideas and creative solutions from its own internal source, instead of being a mere passive receptacle for external data. This emptiness nourishes creativity and intuition, emptiness of expectations and control. You let go of the need for things to be a specific way, to control every detail of the outcome. You detach from future outcomes with deep trust, relying on the intelligence of the universe's flow and your ability to adapt. This doesn't mean a lack of ambition or resignation. It means liberation from the anxiety, stress, and frustration associated with the need for control. When you don't rigidly cling to a predefined outcome, you become infinitely more flexible, adaptable, and capable of seeing new opportunities that were previously hidden by your limited vision. It is liberation from the prison of your own projections. Emptiness of judgment and criticism. You practice letting go of relentless judgment of yourself and others. You recognize that judgment is corrosive mental noise, a form of resistance that blinds you to the truth, distorts your perception, and consumes an immense amount of vital energy. Instead, you cultivate curiosity, compassion, radical acceptance, and neutral observation. You see things as they are, without the burden of criticism. This frees you from the burden of perfection and allows you to connect with others from a place of authenticity and empathy. Emptiness of identification with thought and emotion. You stop rigidly identifying with every thought or emotion that arises in your consciousness. You understand that they are transient, like clouds passing across the sky of your consciousness, not the immutable essence of who you are. This frees you from the tyranny of your own mind, from self-limiting narratives, and from the emotional roller coaster. You realize that you are the vast, silent sky that contains the clouds, not the clouds themselves. The discipline of emptiness is a form of creation through non-creation. By letting go of the superfluous, what weighs you down, or what no longer serves you, you open up a vast and fertile inner space for the new, the essential, the truly meaningful, and the highest part of your being to spontaneously emerge. It's like emptying a glass of stagnant water so you can fill it with fresh, pure, and crystal clear water. This emptiness is not a void, a lack, or an absence. It is a potential fullness, the fertile field, the blank canvas from which true innovation, deep wisdom, and the most aligned manifestation of your purpose emerge. It is the sacred ground for the birth of genius, the ethics of power, responsibility, and service. Such sharp power, such a clear mind, and such an unshakable presence carry immense and profound responsibility. Shaolin mastery, in its purest essence, is not a path to selfishness, personal domination, or the accumulation of power for one's own ends. It is, at its heart, a path to selfless service. True strength is not that which imposes, but that which elevates. The power of active compassion, a clear mind detached from reactivity, sees the inherent suffering in the world and in others with a sharpness that can be painful but also inspiring. But that clarity does not lead to cynicism or hopelessness, but to profound and active compassion. Compassion, in this context, is not a passive emotion of pity, but the inspired action that arises from a deep and empathetic understanding of others' suffering, impelling you to contribute to its alleviation in conscious and effective ways. Your clarity allows you to see the root of suffering, and your power allows you to be an agent of change, silent and inspiring leadership. You don't need a formal title, a position of authority, or a leadership role to lead. Your mere presence, your clarity of thought, your unshakable integrity, and the calm you radiate become a source of natural inspiration for others. You lead by example, with your silent integrity and with the wisdom that emanates from your being. People are drawn to your coherence and stability, and they follow you not out of obligation, but out of inspiration and trust. You are a beacon of consciousness, a silent guide in the darkness. Collective impact and vibrational elevation. Every time you cultivate inner stillness, sharpen your observation, honor your conscious breathing and practice detachment, you are not only transforming yourself at an individual level, you are in a subtle but powerful way, raising the collective vibration of humanity. You are an anchoring point of consciousness, a source of coherence in a world that often feels fragmented and chaotic, contributing to a symphony of light, clarity and peace that can inspire others. Your personal transformation ceases to be an isolated act and becomes an act of global service, a gift to the planet. By healing yourself, by purifying your own energetic field, you send waves of healing into the vast collective unconscious. This is the true purpose of Shaolin mastery, to become a force for good, a beacon of awareness and wisdom in a world that often seems lost in noise, confusion and darkness. It is the path of the enlightened warrior, whose greatest battle is the internal one against their own limitations, and whose greatest victory is not the conquest of others, but the unshakable peace and profound wisdom that emanates from their own being. This is the legacy you leave, not what you accumulate, but the quality of your presence and the vibration you share with the world. So on this path of continuous evolution and self-mastery, remember these fundamental truths. True intelligence does not reside in the quantity of information you consume or the speed of your thought, but in the clarity and depth with which you process the world and understand yourself. True power does not reside in the force you impose on others, but in the stillness, calm, and unshakable presence you radiate from your center. And true wisdom is not found in external answers, in books or in gurus, but in the silence and internal space that allow you to listen to the profound truth that resides within your own being. Train your silence, sharpen your observation, honor your breath as a sacred bridge, and detach from the tyranny of the conditioned mind. Because by doing so, you will not only become sharper, more focused, and more powerful in your life, but you will become a master of your own reality, capable of navigating the chaos of the world with unwavering grace, pristine lucidity, and a clear purpose that illuminates your path and that of others.